Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? All right, so this is my second video today, July 7th. I talked for 50 minutes and you said your little jokes in the comments, okay? Don't be making fun of me because I have an extensive vocabulary of words to share with the world. But I have my clock. This is why I keep a stopwatch next to me because I just, time is an illusion. This video is definitely going to be short though, because this is not really even about this woman. This is for the young females, particularly young Black women in America, but all over the world that are trying to find themselves. Women are an ecosystem, as I always say. And so our daughters and our nieces and the girls of the world are always looking to other women, not just their mothers, not just the women in their family, but to all women in order to define and shape womanhood. And that doubles down or triples down when you deal with girls that don't have good mothers or that don't come from strong backgrounds, that don't have strong female guidance, which unfortunately is a very significant percentage of our culture. I would say, and I talked about this in the Keys to Womanhood workbook, there are a lot of women, not just young women, but women in general that have never had healthy, righteous relationships with women, including the women in their family. And I'm not just saying that, because it sounds good. I'm saying that after, 10 plus years of actually researching and observing what's happening in the world. And then also being a woman, having friends, having relationships with women, having pause, no funny shit. This is, I can't say what I want to say, but yeah, no, there's nothing that a woman can do for me personally. Okay. But this video is for my young sisters that are trying to find their way, that are trying to solidify themselves into womanhood, that want respect. Okay. And we're going to really underscore the point that respect and attention are not the same things. Okay. Respect has to be earned. I'm writing notes as I'm talking because I'm making a mental note to myself to reiterate this throughout the video. Respect has to be earned. Now, there's a base level of respect that all human beings should have for one another, right? Don't impeach on somebody else's personal property. Don't go around, like Tabitha says, even if you're not having a good day, don't you mess up nobody else's day, right? So not infringing on other people's personal space, not, projecting in terms of how you interact with people on a day-to-day basis, right? Seeing a random person on the street and having some basic level of respect where you don't interfere or try to harm them, right? Do no harm. That's the basic level of human respect, regardless of race, regardless of sexual orientation, whatever your, natural disposition is in life. We should have a natural, neutral, basic respect for other human beings. Now, if I'm on a subway train and you are on the train twerking, or you are on the train making out with, a dude or whatever, if you are going out of your way to be seen and to be heard in a way that might disturb or frustrate other people, then that's a different conversation, right? So why did I call this video Concubine Chronicles? Because we're going to talk about Concubine Chronicles today. Again, briefly, this won't be long, I promise, because I got a lot of other things to do. Concubine in the original sense, if you look the word concubine up in Webster's dictionary, it's going to say that a concubine is the second or third or whatever number of wife in terms of being married to a king, right? That particular definition doesn't really justify the full meaning of the word, right? Because we know that in Moorish Spain, for example, some of the kings during those periods had thousands of concubines, right? These men weren't marrying these women. They also weren't having sex with all of these women, but there was, some of the women came from other cultures that were taken over, dominated, and then the women, they, fold them into the culture. And now the king is responsible for taking care of these females. And then, some of them were just chosen through the culture, through the society, to actually be, a part of a harem, quote unquote. And then there are instances where kings have multiple wives, right? So there's that. And then there's also, I was looking for my book. I have a book called, I think it's Green Jade. I actually haven't seen it in a while, and it frustrated me a little bit, but it's basically talking about women in Asian cultures, ancient Japanese and Chinese cultures, Asian cultures, who were groomed, right, to be the white tigress. Is it the white tigress? Now this is going to bug me. I think it's the white tigress. But it's talking about women that were groomed sexually in order to appease and meet the needs of the men in those cultures. And so the concubines would be basically reared from birth in order to meet a man's sexual needs, but they were also groomed so that they could advise these men in certain aspects, so that they were intellectually astute, right, in order to meet this man in an intellectual capacity and not just sexually. But these women in these time periods were basically shaped and molded purely for the experience of pleasing and satisfying men, right? So there's caveats to this, right? But when I talk about concubine, I'm talking about using sexual energy to gain favor and or attention in a degrading way, which is a very large, unfortunate segment of women, not just Black women, but women in particular, right? There's no real sacredness when it comes to the female body or when it comes to sexuality in terms of women at all now. Everything is free flying, right? And so the irony is that a lot of these females are complaining about people trying to control and rule their bodies, which you're going to hear this particular female talk about in just a second. And we're going to hear from her very briefly, okay? But you very rarely hear these females talk about sexual discipline, about honoring your body, because when you know that something is sacred, my son is sacred to me, right? That's why I don't share him with the world. I very rarely put pictures of him up. I've never put any video up, right? And because he's sacred, I want to protect him. I don't want everybody having exposure to my son, right? So there's that aspect. And then as a woman, I'm a woman. I'm a woman's woman, right? So I understand how sexuality or how I present myself, whether I'm in a room full of people or whether I'm in a private meeting with a couple of people, or how I present myself online. I understand that how I represent and present my body and my physical self is going to affect how people treat me. That's not just for women, that's for men as well. Are there, double standards and all? Of course there are, right? But for me personally, as a woman, I hold women to a higher standard anyway, because you are the portal through which humanity comes through. All of humanity has to come through the womb of a woman in order to experience this third dimensional reality, right? At least up until now. We know that there is an agenda to curtail that, right? And to try to create an artificial variation of humanity, but that's not what this video is about, okay? So young women, listen to me very carefully. Okay, I am a woman. I am a semi-attractive woman. And I say that, tongue in cheek, because I don't like to talk about that type of stuff, right? But I've never been, I have never not gotten attraction from the opposite sex based on my looks since young, 14, 15, right? So I understand what happens, right, when you come in contact, because you're not just coming in contact with, high vibrational men and disciplined men and, married men with established families that aren't looking for anything. We live in a world full of pedophiles and rapists and mental illness and craziness and insanity. And America is the epitome of all of those things coming together, right? They say at any given time, there's 4 million pedophiles in America. That's an FBI statistic, right? So we have all of this perverse sexual energy happening in a perverse sexual environment, which is what America is. Okay. We've had 400 plus years of rape of not only female slaves, but of male slaves, not only of women, but of girls and of boys too. Okay. So we've had a 400 plus year trajectory leading us up into the 1900s, the latter 1900s, and where we are today, right? We had a 400 plus year trajectory of sexual perversion that was inflicted upon us by another people, okay? And I'm not only blaming that on what happened. This is a global thing, right? Where we are in terms of the sexual dichotomy and our understandings of the sacredness of the female body, right? So with all of that being said, I understand how I carry myself when I walk into a room, how I'm dressed, right? If I want to get respect, I'm going to dress a certain type of way. And if I'm, turning up, we go into the club, I'm going to dress a certain type of way, right? In my Plagues of Dysfunction book, part 2, I talked about the way that women carry themselves when they have sons, right? If you have a son, your son should never see you walk outside in booty shorts, breasts hanging out, super loose sexually. I'm not telling you not to dress like that. I'm saying wear a trench coat till you go outside, have respect for your son, right? So that he does not start to develop an understanding of how to interact with women based on sexuality or physical presence, right? Because how our women relate to their sons establishes the culture or the temperament for how our sons relate to all women, right? So I was always very careful about how I carried myself around my son, even though I'm probably a lot more, modest than a lot of females, especially today. I've been young before, so there's that. But I shouldn't even say modest. I've always regarded myself as sacred. Even when I was young, even when I was getting a lot of attention, in high school and in my early 20s and whatnot, like I always knew I was sacred. So because I always knew I was sacred, there is no footage that exists anywhere in the world of me carrying myself in a way that's going to attract sexual energy towards me with the intention of gaining favor or attention in a degrading way. It doesn't exist, right? So let's bring this back to Miss Tierra Mack. I searched her name on YouTube. Remember, attention and respect are not the same thing. Look at what comes up. Look at the response. And of course, she's trying to pivot away from, the twerking aspect and turn this into an actual real conversation. And she might be able to do that within her small group of followers, small group of like-minded females, and small group of Magic City VIP, men that show up at 7 o'clock in the morning to get a strip tease before they go, to Starbucks and have coffee and then go to work. Yeah, she's probably got people that are rooting for her in that element. But women who have children, men who have self-respect and who have kind of been around the block a few times and have experienced certain things with different types of females and different type of women, when a man sees a woman acting like this, moving like this, if he's operating in his lower nature, that's attractive. If he's operating in his higher nature from his higher mind, she looks foolish. And hopefully he will have some sort of empathy and compassion for her instead of, well, yeah, he's going to have empathy and compassion for her. If he's a lower natured man, though, if she doesn't respond in the way that he expects her to respond, because remember, she's sending sex signals. We're not in Africa, so we don't need to have the conversation about twerking starting in Africa. I just talked about a 400+ year sojourn of sexual abuse and trauma that has been inflicted on our people in America in particular. We're not in Africa anymore. So save that argument. If you put that in my comments, I'm going to chop you up, I promise. We're not in Africa anymore, right? And there's so many things that are native to Africa in terms of the sciences, in terms of the mathematics, in terms of philosophy and culture and tradition that I don't ever see any of you guys talking about. The only thing you want to represent Africa is when it comes to something that represents your personal interest, right? So stop it. A lot of things started in Africa that you guys aren't practicing. So I'm looking at all of this content, right? And seeing how these people are responding. And I think it's, okay, yeah, it goes on here. Nobody's talking about this woman in a respectable manner, right? They're making mockery of her. And now let's hear what she has to say. And if you go to her Instagram page, right? I can't read her bio because of the censorship. But if you just stop for a second, if you're driving or if you're washing dishes, just, not if you're driving, but if you're moving around the house multitasking, just stop for a second and just look at the screen, okay? Let's look at her bio. So we're talking about a non-playable character here, NPC. The non-playable characters in the video games, they hold substantial positions in, you go in the bank, you got to deal with somebody giving you your money, or go to the car dealership, you got to get a car. So there's a car salesman there, right? We're talking about the people in the background of the game that look like they're actually doing something, but this is all these people do, is what you see them doing when you see them in the screen. Once you don't see them on the screen anymore, they're not relevant. They're not doing anything, right? And I said this in a video before about me having to check myself and to be mindful about judging non-playable characters, right? Because why are we judging non-playable characters? But we live in a culture where concubines are running the show. And when I say a culture, I'm not talking about over here. I'm talking about in the broader context of consciousness, right? So this is what happens when Cardi B sits down and interviews Joe Biden. This is what happens when Megan Thee Stallion is being put up as this intelligent, sexually free, some form of some new role model of women's empowerment. When you mix politics with concubine energy, females that'll do anything to get put on. The stripper culture right now is not just in the strip clubs. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook. It's everywhere you turn, right? So let's listen. And I hope you guys read her bio, because now we have context. We're talking about a non-playable character. But I'm doing this video for the young women, because I know that there's not a lot of women that are speaking to you guys in a way that you can actually relate, right? Every human being wants validation. That is a staple of being a man, being a woman, being a child. One of the most fundamental aspects that we're all looking for is validation. I remember Oprah Winfrey said one time, a child is looking when they walk into a room. If your face doesn't light up, it affects them in a certain type of way. And if your face lights up, it affects them in a certain type of way, right? So we are all directly and indirectly seeking validation. It's just a part of human nature. If you have a business or a craft, you're an artist, or you're a dancer, or you're a singer, or you're a poet, or you're a writer, right? we keep our work to ourselves for a certain point, but eventually, hopefully, you're going to share your gift with the world. And we're waiting for to be received. We're waiting for positive criticism, whatever it is, even if it's just from our family. I know artists say, I do it. I just do it for me. I don't pay attention to the critics. If you don't pay attention to the critics, that's intentionally because you don't want to be jaded by the perspectives of other people, right? But there's somebody in your life, grandfather, neighbor, hopefully somebody you have a deep connection with that you want to make proud. That's validation, right? So I'm not talking about the lower nature of seeking validation, right? Shaking your behind in the screen and hoping you get 1,000 likes. That's lower nature frequency thinking and living, right? So with the validation aspect for the young women, I need you to understand this is not the type of attention that you want. This woman is going, especially because she's in, dealing in all these different corporate environments and political environments. Do you think that the men, particularly white men that interact with this woman, are going to respect her? She's about to get so much subtle and subliminal and overt and direct disrespect. And what's she going to say? See, this is the problem. Women don't have body autonomy and you don't respect women. Never pointing the finger within, never looking within, never doing a self-analysis. If we go to church and everybody's got their Sunday go to meeting clothes on, right? Everybody's dressed the part because everybody's going to have a religious experience or to connect with God, communion, etc. If we go to a business meeting, and so we've got 10 or 15 people in the room that have all come with the same sort of intentions and are all seeking to be informed or to give information or to provide services, a product, etc. Right? Think about these different types of environments, right? So everybody comes to the table with their, intentions, with their focus. If you walk into the room in either one of these settings and start twerking, it is going to completely disrupt the energy in this environment because nobody's here for that. We've all got a common goal. So the men are going to react one way, the women are going to react one way. And then half the men might react, get turned on or sexually stimulated. And then half the men might get disgusted, right? And I'm saying this because Instagram now is a real part of the average person's reality. So somebody was watching my other video. He made a comment. This is what made me think about Instagram being the strip club. And he said, he was repeating what I said and he was laughing about it, but he was basically agreeing with me that it's true. I've never set foot in a strip club ever in my 43 years of life, right? But now the strip club's on Instagram. I don't want to see strippers. I can't avoid strippers in 2022. How is that possible? How is that possible? And if I can't avoid it, I know my 19-year-old son, who is, following these different rappers and celebrities and whoever he's, his different interests and whatnot. And I've raised my son to respect girls and to respect women, right? Not only to respect them, but, in certain situations, you as a man have a responsibility to protect women, Black women in particular. But what you're not going to do is intervene in circumstances and situations where females are bringing negativity and negative energy to themselves, which is what Miss Tierra Mack here is doing and has done. Okay, so let's just listen to her briefly. I can't stomach much of this.
Now that you all have seen me twerking, let's talk a little bit more about body autonomy. There is something really weird and really concerning happening in the United States when it comes to body autonomy, especially when it comes to historically marginalized communities. I'm talking about women, people with uteruses, I'm talking about trans individuals, and I'm talking about intersex youth. As a Black woman, I have always known that my body is not my own. It is always going to be policed, critiqued, and scrutinized. But since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, white women are now starting to wake up to the reality that their bodies may also not be their own. Roe v. Wade has always been the floor when it comes to abortion justice. I say this because many people don't know that their state might be prohibiting low-income Black and brown individuals from accessing abortion through something called the Hyde Amendment. I've talked about Hyde in a previous video, but what people don't realize is that Hyde prevents federal funds from covering abortion, meaning that Medicaid plans are not allowed to use those funds to cover abortion, leaving it up to states to decide if they appropriate those funds. Right now, only 16 states do that. Communities of color have been fighting for abortion justice way before the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And so,
okay, I can't take much more. Now, you notice how this segue from her personal accountability, personal responsibility, she segued away from, and I didn't watch all of these videos because Lord knows I can only handle so much, right? Again, non-playable character. There's nothing for me to learn here, right? Except to see how these type of people are impacting the broader consciousness. And again, this is what happens in a bootylicious, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, Amber Rose, Kim Kardashian, you know, all of the most popular women now fit into this sort of oh God, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's on the tip of my tongue. This sort of avatar, that's not the word I'm reaching for, but I can't find it. This avatar now of this sexually free, right? My body, my choice type sentiment. But we know you guys don't mean that, because for 2 years, you tried to force women of all races and all nationalities and all countries all over the planet, you tried to force women to put something in their body that women like myself have vehemently stood up against and will continue to do so, right? So stop with the fake care, fake love, fake compassion for women, because all of you guys have proven over the last 2 years that that doesn't exist, okay? Now, people with uteruses. She said women first and then she cleaned that up. It said people with uteruses. Again, a non-playable character. So we have to keep these things in context. Let me let this fire truck pass by. She said, as a Black woman, I have always known that my body is not my own. That's victim-based consciousness squared. And I'm talking to the young sisters, but I also want to make sure I talk to the queens and the goddesses, right, that are listening to this, that understand that your words have power and what you put out into the ethers is what's actually creating your reality, right? So I would never say such a low vibrational, weak-minded statement such as a Black woman, I understand that my body is not my own. No, I take 1000% ownership over mine. That's why I carry myself the way that I do, because I'm not seeking attention. I'm commanding and demanding respect. Going back to my analogy of the boardroom versus the church, right? In those environments, everybody comes together and has an understanding that we all need to have some basic common sense that nobody needs to discuss. Nobody needs to tell you that you can't come into the meeting with a thong on. Right? So we have these basic levels of morality and understanding in terms of how we interact with one another as human beings. How you carry yourself in a boardroom matters. How you carry yourself in a church matters. We're here for serious business in the boardroom. We're here for serious business in the church, if you're really serious about God. So nobody's going to come into those type of environments and twerk. But if they did, it would completely change the entire dichotomy of the energy in the room. And if you have any sense, you're not going to sit and watch the twerking, You're either going to check her and remove her or remove yourself, because you're here for serious business, not to play. If you're at a nightclub, that's a different type of situation. If you're at a beach, I'm here in LA. You go to the beaches, there's 1,000 women, all shapes, all sizes, all colors, wearing thongs, playing volleyball, laying up, getting suntans. It's a proper environment where you expect it's expected. No big deal, right? So because we have social media now, we have this new sort of dimension of consciousness where people can come together and share all these different life experiences, right? Some people are online just for business, but can still do twerking. Some people are online for, to follow spiritual or religious pages, right? But can still view twerking, right? We had the whole demon time thing during the lockdown where, the strip club at late at night, you could go online and watch a full strip tease for free, right? Because, now everything is available at the tip of your fingertips. You can see anything from A to B to Z, from top to bottom, left to right. Everything I have seen some of the most savage, perverse things on Instagram. I would never, especially because I'm so heavily censored, it makes me think, okay, somebody's watching. There's a morality code here, or there's guidelines. There's certain, you can't do everything. You can't say anything you want. You can't do anything you want, right? Well, apparently you can. So the balance of indulgence versus discipline. If you are a woman that is commanding and demanding respect, then you understand the balance of indulgence versus discipline. So what you do in your private life, or what you do at the club when you turning up, or when you feeling free, and you know what I'm saying? You're not necessarily going to put that online, because you understand that I have people that are, I have family members, I have children in my family that are watching. If your page is public, then anybody could be watching, right? So you understand that you got to carry yourself in a certain type of way. This particular NPC does not fit into any of those categories. Young ladies, listen to me carefully. How Slick Rick said, little kids don't follow these dopes. Young ladies, don't follow these clowns. This is clown shit. I'm not judging strippers. I'm not judging women online who are twerking. Do you, free will, right? But once you start calling yourself a representative of the people, this is my issue with T.I. talking that king talk, but, doing everything but in terms of how he's representing himself in particular ways. And this ain't about T.I., so scratch that from the record. We staying on this. When you call yourself a leader, when you have a position where you are in control or have a say-so in how policies and bills and laws and the infrastructure of society is actually established, you have a responsibility to carry yourself with a certain level of respect. What you do in your free time is your business. Nobody cares. This is what, the so much conversation about the anti-LGBTQ sentiment. Most people do not care what you do in the privacy of your home, in the privacy of your life, right? That's a fact. I certainly don't. But the minute that you start trying to use your sexuality or sexual energy to gain favor and or attention in a degrading way, which is exactly what this female is doing, this NPC is doing, this is concubine energy. Young ladies, and especially now because you put things on social media, and even if you delete it, somebody can screenshot it. You can video record somebody else's content so easily now. Taking it down doesn't mean anything, especially when it goes viral. She's doubling down. Twerk for joy. This is concubine energy. This is non-playable character energy. Non-playable characters don't have to sit back and analyze and assess how their behavior is affecting other people. How is my behavior as a Black woman who is a senator in Rhode Island, how is my behavior going to affect the young girls coming up behind me? Because we have a culture of sex trafficking in America, and Black girls are a prime target. We have a culture of rape and molestation and abuse in our culture and in American culture and in general. What is my role and accountability to that? Not just trans people and people with uteruses and intersex youth. You non-playable character, you. I have so many other more important things to talk about. And I say that tongue in cheek because I don't really like doing this. I don't like talk. You know, it's just so much happening in the world right now. There's so many other more important things to be concerned about right now than for me to have to actually address this insanity. But I have a duty and a responsibility and a love for young women, Black women in particular. And I know how difficult it is coming up at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25, 30, all these different layers and levels of womanhood that you bump your head and got to learn different things and make mistakes and got to get over the mistakes and get in relationships. And he's not the one, okay, new relationship, you know, or being single or celibate or not, like all of these different things that come in the fold of you trying to find who you are as a woman. I can assure you, this is not the type of energy that you want coming towards you as you're trying to figure it out, because it's hard enough as it is. So please stop listening to and following the concubines of the world who are also non-playable characters. If you're being led by non-playable characters, we're already on the wrong track. Okay? She doubled down. She never came forward. She never came forward and said, you know, maybe I could have rethought that. I believe she did this for an ad campaign, or some sort of campaign. I watched some videos about this, but the whole story is just so disinteresting to me. It really, you know, I probably should have had a cup of coffee before I really sat down and looked into this to stay even interested. Okay. But from what I see, let me go back to YouTube. I saw somebody said that she did, okay, making Turk videos for votes, right? I don't know. I'm not even that interested in this. I don't even really care, to be honest. She's just a focus for me to send and convey a message to the young girls and even women of the world. Be mindful how you carry yourself, bruh. It matters. You can't objectify yourself and then get mad when you get treated like an object. I'm going to say that again. You cannot objectify yourself and then get mad when you get treated like an object. A concubine is not a queen. Queen has to be earned. The queen operates she operates and makes choices and decisions based on the kingdom or the queendom, the people that she rules. I don't want to say rules over, but rules on behalf of in a righteous civilization. We're not talking about Queen Elizabeth and Satan's minions. In righteous environments and righteous civilizations, a queen understands that how she carries herself, the choices that she makes, the decisions that she makes affects the whole. A goddess is self-ruled. So she's operating with all of the understanding of a queen, but then even beyond that, understanding that how my frequency and my consciousness and my awareness is the primary method of me to affect the greater consciousness. So it's not just how I carry myself physically, what I wear, and how that, you know, the respect factor. We're talking about getting the respect of the creator when we start having goddess conversations, being in alignment with the creator. and in no realm of consciousness where you are focused on the broader context in terms of the people, the whole, right? Queen energy, or in terms of the spiritual realm plus the physical realm. In nowhere in those environments are any of us not held accountable and not assessed in terms of personal worth based on how we treat and interact the broader consciousness. So women, if you really understood your power, you wouldn't be trying to weaponize your sexuality in order to trend or in order to get back at men. You can't use the same tools that men have been using to rule you for thousands of years to get your freedom back. That's not how this works. Not talking about non-playable characters. I'm talking about young, upcoming, vibrant, inspired, curious, inquisitive young women. I'm talking about women that are aspiring to be queens and to be respected and to make real moves in the world. I'm talking about women who are operating with the goddess intention, with the goddess frequency, understanding that how we carry ourselves mentally and vibrationally is what sets the tone for what's happening in third dimensional reality. This woman is none of those things. So again, young ladies, stay away from this type of corny, weirdo, self-degrading, objectifying. I don't care about what anybody thinks about me or how my behavior affects anybody else. I do what I want to do. That's not queen talk. That's not goddess talk. That's concubine talk. And that's non-playable character energy. ZaZaAli.com is my website. info@ZaZaAli.com is my email address. I have a private exclusive membership channel. If you like my content, you can sign up for that. I'm speaking in LA, August the 20th of 2022. And I have again talked for 41 minutes. Didn't mean to. Don't make fun of me in the comments. All right. I'll see y'all soon. Peace and love.